the WagerTalk one-day power pass, you receive every play from every betting consultant for one full day at the ridiculously discounted price of just $149. What's better than spending the day watching and following a great slate of games? Watching, following, and winning those games. Get every WagerTalk expert and every game they release for that day.
Welcome to WagerTalk Today, everybody. April 8th. Teddy covers the Prez. Great show today, Teddy. Some of the powerhouses. Dave Cokin up first. We're going to talk Brewers, Cardinals, Angels, Blue Jays, and a little bit of hockey. The Panthers versus the Hurricanes, which should be an outstanding game. Then Ralph Michaels. He's got a bunch of charts, so get your pen ready. We're going to talk Pistons versus Kings and the Rangers versus the Penguins. Your big game breakdown, my penalty box segment. We'll find more. How are you, my friend?
I'm lousy this morning. I lost my 5% in overtime last night, and it was no fun at all. A really frustrating game. So I feel a little hungover today. You know, I was one of those 5%ers that you just put a lot of emotional energy in, and came up short. Really frustrating. So I'm not great today.
I'm sorry,
How about
dude.
you?
Listen, I got to tell you, like, full disclosure, when they mix the chocolate edibles, I don't think they do an even mix throughout, because you can have the same amount every night and not necessarily the same feeling. I missed your game last night. I missed almost everything last night. I don't actually remember much about last night. I was trying to play Scrabble against Vivian, and words did not appear. And then I plopped on Pink Floyd and lay on the floor. I'm doing good, dude. That was my night. Too much info?
I honestly don't even know where to respond to that. You know, okay. I'm glad you got really high and laid on the floor and listened to Pink Floyd last night. I sweated out games.
I'm a grown adult.
And it wasn't fun.
I'm a grown adult. It's legal. I'm a grown adult. I wear pink shirts. It's not like I did meth in my big toe or something. Anyway,
No.
What happened in the world of sports last night?
Sure, let's do a little bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books. See if we can wipe the slate clean off of yesterday's games. We can focus on today. And my nephew sent me this. My nephew Spencer, of course, I was watching, so I knew what was going on anyway. But he's like, tough one if you laid -3 with the Celtics. The Celtics up 6 with what? There's 6 seconds left. And first, Alfred Payton hits the 3, and then a foul. Boston hits 2 free throws. They're still up 5, but that first 3 mattered when R.J. Barrett hit the second 3 inside the final 6 seconds. And this was the legit meaningless 3 at the buzzer. Barrett deserves a Christmas card from all Knicks bettors in that ball game. Boston wins by 2, laying 3. Tough beat if you laid with the Celtics. Hornets Thunder snuck over by a point. I'm not going to call that a bad beat at all. It was on an overpace all game. There was no late flurry. Still, one more miss. Underbettors didn't enjoy that one. The worst beats, I guess these are the worst. And I keep burying the lead in bad beats, but I think it's more fun to build up to the worst ones. The Jazz Suns under last night. All right. 227.5. This was a great defensive game by both teams. Utah, the best three-point shooting team in the league, shot 25% from beyond the arc. Brick. The over never had a chance in that ball game. Really, never had a chance until it went to overtime, tied at 102. And it almost survived the overtime, the under as well. But too many fouls in the last 10 seconds of OT. Lands 230. Tough if you had under 227.5 in that game. That was a right side. Wrong result. And, of course, the LA Dodgers. -165. They have the 2-run lead over the A's. Bottom of the 7, 2 outs, nobody on. Oop. They let Bauer in, 1 batter too many. And then they blew a bases-loaded chance in the top of the 9th. And then the blown save in the bottom of the 9th. Kenley Jansen again. And they lose an extra. Oh, baseball season. Dodger bettors did not enjoy the end result of that ball game. Still stayed under 7.5, though. So the beat could have been worse if you had Dodgers and under. At least the under still cashed. A couple of bad bets worth noting. Hey, the NHL, a lot of bad bets yesterday. Money for the Colorado Avalanche. They were bet up to minus 180 at Minnesota. The Wild won 8-3. There was Golden Knights money, too. They were bet up to minus 55 at St. Louis. Blues won that game 3-1. The Kings opened the favorites. They closed pick'em or plus 105 dogs. They rallied from 2 goals down in the third to beat Arizona of 4-3. So the sharp money in hockey last night got a bunch wrong. In the NBA, Pacers from -2 to +2. Minnesota couldn't be a road favorite. They lost the game by 4. Couple of bad for the books. Lots of Wizards money last night. The Magic are hopeless. Washington bet from -2.5 to -4.5. They won by 15. There was lots of Charlotte money last night. Charlotte's missing 3 of their top 5 scorers. Didn't matter. -4.5 up to -5.5 against the Thunder. OKC looks pretty hopeless right now. They lost at home by 11. And the Hawks opened -3. They closed plus 1.5. No Capella, no Gallinari, no Collins, no Hunter. Yes, that's their 4 best rebounders. They lost the rebounding margin by double digits. And they lost the game by double digits to the Grizzlies as well. That a bad result for the books. And one in MLB, that was pretty bad for the house. Huge steam on the Phillies yesterday. -130, bet up to -170, even higher. They beat the Mets 8-2 in that ball game. That, not a great result for the house. So there you have it, Prez. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books yesterday. Slate white clean. Let's move into today.
Teddy Covers. I was on the New York Knicks last night. I missed the final shot. I don't know how I missed it, but I had that kind of a night. But it went in, and I covered. I don't know where you'd call that. Maybe we should have a miracle section. But that worked out well for me. Dave Cokin joining us. David Cokin, we're so happy to have you. Outstanding start to the baseball season, brother. 6-1. You know, you told everybody beforehand this is a sport you take seriously. Number 1 most profitable expert last year, and already number 1 this year. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. I actually did a compilation of some numbers here. So off to a great start in baseball, as you mentioned. Very happy with that. NHL for the season is now plus 47 units and change. That's net. And going back to January 1st of 2018. So this would be a long-term stat. Plus 213 net units. If you've played everything I've given out, including one ill-fated MMA card where I went 1-4 and then said that's something I'm never going to do again. You're up 213 net units. And the reason I mention this is there is a current special to get everything I've got for the rest of 2021. It works out to $4 a day, which I think is a pretty good price. And if you go to my homepage at WagerTalk right now, you can sign up for that. And hopefully this run will continue. I guess can you call it a run when it's been going on for 3.5 years? Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Terry Fox. They call him a run. They call what he did a run. So why not call what you did a run?
Who's Terry Fox?
You guys do know. You don't know who Terry Fox is?
Terry Fox.
Obviously, because both of us gave you the look of we have no idea who you're talking about.
I don't.
All my Canadian listeners.
I'll guarantee he's Canadian.
All my Canadian listeners. How crazy is that, huh? What a shame. Oh, my God.
Is that the marathon runner?
Terry Fox got cancer, lost his leg, and then ran without a leg across Canada, raising more money than any other person in the history of sports. He is a minted Canadian, as famous as it gets. And so you know, the two of you ignoramas, they have Terry Fox runs in almost every Western country in the world. They know who he is in Australia, in South Africa, in England, in pretty much every other place. I am shocked. Let's get into some sports. Oh, my God. You know what? Okay. I'm not over it yet. Brewers, St. Louis. 7.5 is the total. Brew Crew -150, Dave. Tell us how we bet this game.
Oh, Terry Fox in the lineup for the Cardinals today. No.
Nice. Nice.
Burns is on the mound for the Brewers. They have a 1-2 punch at the top of their rotation that is absolutely lethal with Woodruff and Burns. These two guys, I mean, they are throwing absolute heat. And the rest of the rotation, well, we'll see. But you got two number one starters on this team, and here's one of them. And he's going against Wainwright, who, he's still finding a way to get it done at an advanced stage, but his stuff just isn't that great anymore. He got knocked all over the place in his first start. I don't think he'll have that bad an outing here. The Brewers' offense isn't all that good, and the line's been bet up. Let's see, where is it right now? It looks like actually it's come down a little bit. It's like 135, 134ish. I can't go against Burns here. This would be a game where, if you're looking at it, and this falls into that range once again. I didn't play it, but I certainly gave it consideration. First 5. I don't want any part of the Brewers bullpen. Not that it's a bad bullpen, but they did throw innings yesterday, and bullpens are just tough to handicap. Cardinals bullpen looks like it might be pretty good. So to me, this would be a first 5 where there's a pretty big edge on the starting pitching to the Milwaukee side. So Brewers as chalk in the first 5. Now here's the problem with that. I gave you the line on the game, but the first 5, that's another story entirely. That's all the way up in the minus 170 range, minus 165, minus 170. So I really can't recommend it at that price, but I do think the Brewers win the first 5 innings in this game.
Let me ask you this, Dave, because one thing that I'm looking for early in the season is a lineup that's clicking, especially when I want to lay a price. And Milwaukee, I mean, I know they won back-to-back games against the Cubs, but this is not a lineup that's clicking right now. What have they scored? I got them at 13 runs total in their last 5 ball games, cashing 4 unders in the process. Do you trust the Brewers lineup even against a second-tier hurler like Wainwright and that St. Louis bullpen behind?
Not especially. I don't like the Brewers lineup, period. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in their ballpark when the roof's open in the summer. And that ballpark is a hitter's park with the roof open. That could be an issue for the Brewers because that's a ballpark where you kind of need to outscore the opposition unless you're getting really good pitching. And I don't particularly like their offense. So we'll have to see how it goes. But it's one of the reasons I'm kind of tepid on Milwaukee this season. They do have good pitching, but you got to be able to hit the baseball.
Dave Cokin, everybody. Dave, I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on this Blue Jay team. Rayu, tough loss yesterday. The bats just didn't show up. Now it's Stripling minus 112 against the Angels. The total is 10. My gut feel right away was the over. I know you don't play totals, so regale us with your thoughts on this game.
Well, I do play totals in baseball. I've only played 1 or 2 so far, but there'll be more totals as the season goes along, especially on first 5s. The Blue Jays, well, they don't have George Springer in the lineup yet, and that's an impact player. So far, they're not hitting righties much. They're doing pretty well against lefties. They face a righty today in Canning. Canning's a guy with some upside. He hasn't gotten there yet, but I think he's a guy who profiles as a high number 3. Stripling to me is a back end of the rotation guy. So edge on the mound for the Angels. Offensive edge might be with the Angels as well. Mike Trout is off to a great start. And I don't know why Madden would consider hitting Pujols behind him like he did the other day. Pujols hitting cleanup is ludicrous. Okay, absolutely ridiculous at this point. He's the worst hitter in their lineup and probably shouldn't be playing, quite frankly. But that being said, Ohtani, Fletcher, Upton looks like he's swinging the bat pretty well. Bottom of the order has some offensive punch. This might be the year the Angels, if they get pitching, they might just be a playoff team. We'll have to wait and see. I think they're the better squad here, and of course the game's in Dunedin. It's not in Toronto. It's in Dunedin, Florida. So if there's a home field advantage for the home opener with the fans in the stands, and I don't think you're going to get that here. I think this will be a pretty neutral site. Yeah, it's the Blue Jays spring training site, but it's not their home field. I would give the edge to the Halos here.
So let's talk about this stadium in Dunedin, obviously, opening day for Toronto at home. And it's not a stadium that I've seen a whole lot, but all the reports I've been reading is we might look to bet overs for Toronto at home. Do you agree with that, Dave? And tell me a little bit about some of the nuances of this ballpark.
Yep. It's a hitter's park. And if the breeze is blowing out, it's a launching pad. So that could play to overs. And they put it, look, the odds, see, here's the thing. The odds makers have the same information. 10.5, 10 over juiced. So, I mean, that's a high number. It's the highest number on the board, with the exception of the game at Coors. So the odds makers have already factored that in. Therefore, your advantage is kind of nullified. It's like, oh, I think this is going to be an over ballpark. So do the odds makers think that. So, that's you're not getting a great edge there.
Dave Cokin, 6-1 to start the baseball season, everybody. Absolutely dominating on the ice as well. A legend in the space, and we're lucky to have you. Dave, let's talk a hockey game. Panthers versus Hurricanes. Last game ended 5-2 to the Canes, and that score was not really indicative of the game. It was a really, really tight game all the way through. Now they're playing again, a total of 6. Carolina minus 143. I would assume there would be a lot of zigzagging in this series. I'm thrilled to hear you talk about this game.
That's a great game the other night. So forget the final score. Shots on goal, not always an indication of how a game went, but I kind of think they were here. Each team had 36 shots on goal. It was fast-paced. It was up and down the ice. Both teams had great opportunities. Bobrovsky, even though he let in one horrible goal, was pretty good. Mrazek being back in the cage for Carolina is huge. He's really become a good goaltender. I think this is going to be another great game tonight, and the Panthers are going to come out firing. I mean, they've been tremendous off a loss all season long. They off exactly one loss. They're 8-2 on the season. So this team's had a great ability to bounce back. I think this is, despite the fact that Carolina's a really good home team, I think this is a pretty even game. So from a value standpoint, I think you can make a good case for the Panthers here at a decent plus price. And it's the game to watch tonight. If you're looking for one really exciting matchup that has a chance to play out that way, it's Florida at Carolina.
Dave Cokin, guys, now that I got you on, I want to end the segment the way it began. Terry Fox, there's runs in America, Cuba, Canada, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Turkey, UK, Iraq, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and on and freaking on. They're trying to do one on the moon. My Canadian. Dave Cokin, what do you got to promote?
I have a cousin named Paula Fox.
Is she hot?
She's older than I am. She was. I mean, Paula was, God, she's great looking. But,
great.
She's in her 70s.
Dave,
now. So I would say
about
for
how
in her
good looking
70s,
your
she looks
cousin
terrific.
was. Excellent. Send my
As far
love
as the
to Paula.
Promotion. You're talking over me, so I can't. I don't know what you're saying. The promotion is for the. You can get today's game, which is a best bet in baseball. That's up right now, and take advantage of that season-long or year-long special at $4 a day. That's a tremendous price, and that'll include everything. So you get my whole college football season as well. And I think I've done pretty well in that game over the years. So take a look at it, and if you like it, go for it.
Dave Cokin. Dave, thanks for taking time out of your day to join us. Wager Talk Today. We'll see you next Thursday. Guys, Ralph Michaels, Teddy's Big Game Breakdown, the penalty box segment, and no more Terry Fox talk. We'll be back in 20 seconds.
Sign up for the free WagerTalk Text Club to gain access to free plays and exclusive discounts. Just text WagerTalk to 33222 to sign up and get a $10 coupon to use on WagerTalk.com.
today's big game breakdown, let's go back to the association. We'll talk about a team I lost with in very frustrating fashion last night. That would be the Utah Jazz. At home, in theory, a bounce back spot against the Portland Trailblazers. Right now, Utah -6, total sitting in the 232.5 range. There are some 5.5s starting to pop up. The early money has come for Portland and the over, and it's easy to understand why. The Jazz on the second of back-to-backs, and if you missed the game in Phoenix last night, it was as intense as NBA regular season games get. There was playoff intensity throughout. There was certainly a lot of effort for Utah in that ball game. There was a lot of effort going into the game. So it was a game they were focused on, and they came up short. Why did they come up short? Well, two things happened. One, they couldn't hit a three. They were, this is the best three-pointing shooting team in the NBA, and they were 11 for 44, 25% from three last night, including a couple down the stretch that went halfway down. Bogdanovich hit a couple that went halfway down and just came back out. That would have made a big difference in the ballgame. So they didn't shoot threes well. The other thing that happened last night is DeAndre Ayton ate up Rudy Gobert, especially down the stretch. There was one sequence where we saw the Jazz give up 3 consecutive offensive rebounds. And that I thought that in the last 3 or 4 minutes of regulation, that was maybe the key sequence of the game where Gobert couldn't outmuscle Ayton. And that's obviously a concern for anyone that wants to lay with Utah tonight, given they went all in last night and they had some issues, both rebounding and three-point shooting. Now, Portland's coming off a game in which they got blown out as well. Terry Stotts called his team's defensive effort embarrassing. Quote, the first quarter was really bad defensively. They didn't feel us. They got a rhythm and were able to hit shots. We have to put together a full 48-minute effort on the defensive end. So, in theory, there's some urgency defensively for Portland. Of course, the Clippers held Lillard to 2 of 14 shooting in that ball game. 11 points for Damian Lillard, who is someone who you like to see. You don't mind taking in a bounce back situation. And Portland, too. I mean, they were out of the game early. They were down 26. They rallied to make it interesting before halftime, but they just could not contain the Clippers down the stretch of that ballgame. Now, we have seen from this Blazers team some, I guess we'll call it good-bad dichotomy. They're 0-4 the last 4 road games against teams with winning records. That's straight up and against the spread. All right. Their last 4 losses, the Clips, the Bucks, the Nets, the Mavs. The last 4 wins, Orlando, Toronto, Detroit, Oklahoma City. You see the difference? They're not beating the good teams. They're beating the bad team. They lost by 20 at home to the Jazz in the only previous meeting this year. And again, the knee-jerk reaction to all this is Utah played in overtime last night. All their starters played a bunch of minutes. They gave max effort there. Therefore, they're not going to have much left in the tank tonight. My experience has shown that knee-jerk reaction is not necessarily the truth. And you often in the NBA see teams coming back off a brutal loss, off a frustrating loss, off a loss in which the shots weren't falling, et cetera, and take care of business the next time out. I'm going to play this one. I don't trust Portland against the better teams. I'll look to Utah, and I understand the Blazers want to play defense. They're talking defense. Portland's not an under team. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz hit a few more three-pointers tonight than they did last night. The lean here is towards Utah and towards the over in Portland this evening. So with the one-line move and against the other. There you have it, Prez. Big game breakdown. Back to you.
Thanks, Teddy. Guys, please hit that like button. 300 of you watching the show live. Thousands throughout the day. Just take 1 second out of your time. Hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel. Please hit that bell for notifications. We really do appreciate it. Consider it our tip. Just hit the button. That's all we're asking. Hit the button. Teddy, before we bring Ralph Michaels in, on Twitter, yesterday we had some of the people on Twitter were saying we don't grade the free picks. We don't grade your big game breakdown. We don't grade the penalty box segment. We don't grade the free picks I put up on Twitter videos. And that seemed fishy to him. You want to talk about that for a second? Because I mean, my honest answer was, okay, well, we'll just stop giving them out.
No, I mean, so in terms of my big game breakdowns, some days I have a stronger opinion than others. I try to express that. Some days I'm going to lean here and other, and with the big game breaks and with all, I know with your penalty box segments a little bit different because you oftentimes go through every game on the board. With the big game breakdown, I'm always looking for a TV game. I want something that people can watch in general. I want to, you're looking for marquee matchups. I don't want to give out client plays. I do sometimes, but I don't do it all the time. You can't do that every day. So yes, the strength of the opinions on the big game breakdowns and on the NHL penalty box and whatever plays you're going to get on the show, you're not getting people's 5%ers generally watching the show. You'll get a lot of opinions. You'll get a lot of leans. You'll get a couple of plays. And that's the nature of what we do. So I'm not sure. I don't worry about grading my free plays.
Yeah.
I do the best I can. Sometimes it's something I have already half written up. And boom, there it is. It's out.
And it's well said, Teddy, because, I mean, I mentioned I am betting this play. If you listen to the penalty box segment, I tell you the plays I'm actually betting. If I don't say I'm betting this play, then I'm not betting that play. Ralph Michaels, everyone, one of the greatest. And for the people who know you, Ralph, you're a better guy than a handicapper. Welcome to WagerTalk Today.
Hey, thanks. I guess that was a compliment.
I think you're one of the greatest handicappers on the planet.
Before we get into
what
today's
are you, femailing me right now? Don't go grab on the negative. Don't grab on the negative.
No, listen.
You are the best of the best and even better guy.
Thank you. I am going to start my segment by jumping back to Teddy's big game breakdown. So, Teddy, I'm watching you, and you know what I'm doing. I'm on my database. So, what did you say? Teams off an overtime game with no rest is a public knee jerk. How about since 2003? If you have an NBA team off an overtime game with no rest, you are only 41.9% against the spread. A great play against. But you also said the Utah Jazz are an elite team. So when I took that same 41% record with a overtime game and no rest, and I said that the team lost as an away favorite, meaning they're an elite team, to be an away favorite, that record changed to 56%. So both of your statements were absolutely point on.
Well, that's cool. So it's because again, I didn't have the D-base stuff, but the bottom line is teams off an overtime loss as an aggregate are bet against. Teams off a road loss as a road favorite, meaning they're good teams, off an overtime loss, no rest, they tend to be better bets than the aggregate of the NBA.
Exactly.
Ralph,
cool.
Ralph, where would I find how many times a goal is scored in hockey when there is an empty net? Now, that doesn't mean the goal is scored on the empty net. It could be scored, by the team with 6 skaters. But where can I find that percentage? Because if I'm going to start looking at that plus 1.5 for hockey bets, man, I need to know. I mean, is it 30% of the time it happens, 20, 40? That number is important to me, and I don't know where to find it.
That I don't know, Prez. I just started handicapping the NHL this year, so on the database I have, that information is not available. But in other sports, there's a lot of resources I have. The NHL isn't one of them, so we'll see if one of our viewers can help you with that. If not, we'll pass the word across to our WagerTalk handicapping family to see if someone can have that, and then you could share it with our viewers if we do find that.
Awesome stuff. Ralph Michaels, everybody, the GOAT, as they say in the chat room right now. Ralph, Detroit Pistons on the road, plus 7.5, playing the Sacramento Kings. 225 is the total. Where are you going in this game?
I'm going with the value. It's quite simple. You look at year-to-date records, yes, Sacramento's better. You go back to February 11th. Detroit is 9-17 straight up. Sacramento is 10-17 straight up. So why is Sacramento this big of a favorite? I don't know. You look at Detroit plus 7.5. The Kings are 0-4 straight up their last 4 games. They've lost 2 of them outright as a favorite. The Kings are only 6-11 against the spread as a favorite all season. And only 3 times all year have they laid over 5.5 points. Guess what? They're 0-3 in those games. This Detroit team's playing hard. 22-10, 69% off a straight-up loss, including 9-2 their last 11. When they have a bad game, they do bounce back. I'm actually going to play Detroit and put a little bit on the money line as well. Again, when you have a team like Sacramento in the streak they're in, laying as many points as they've laid all year, I think there's incredible value on the underdog.
So I had the Pistons on my short list, triple circled. But there was the injury for this game was, in my mind, too much to get involved. Detroit, they're missing leading scorer Jeremy Grant, who's been not just their best player, he's been by far their best player, and he's the only guy you can rely on for the Pistons to score during crunch time. So that's why the line is as high as it is. And I can only take the Pistons in this game. I can't lay points with Sacramento, and you explained many of the reasons why. But it is worth noting that Detroit's missing by far their best player this evening. Does that concern you enough to temper your recommendation, or is it still balls to the wall with the Pistons?
Oh, I was clearly aware of his injury, but, this is a play against a team in a big favorites role that is not accustomed to a big favorites role against a team that I know is still going to play hard, even though I'm not looking for Detroit to win the game. I'm just looking for them to keep it close. So if the game were closer to pick them or they're a small favorite or between the threes, certainly with Grant, I wouldn't want to do it. So, Teddy, I love making you think on this show. So I have a little NBA TNA. It's a chart you probably haven't seen, and it's simply this. Can we take anything away out of a season when we look at who the NBA team played in their last game? So I have 2 charts. It's the exact same information. The chart on the left is sorted by the ATS records. The chart on the right is sorted by the over-unders. So let's look at the chart on the left with the green highlights on top. Teams that played the Grizzlies, the Suns, the Jazz, the Bulls, the Hornets are all 59% or higher the next game. What do those teams have in common? Well, everyone in green is a playoff team with the exception of the Bulls. Look at the bottom of the list, those teams in the red. Teams that played the Timberwolves, the Bucks, the Raptors, the Cavs, the Pacers, and the Rockets. All of those are the dredge of the league with the exception of the Bucks. When you look at this information, can you say, well, look, teams that are off a loss playing those good teams are likely to play better the next game? Teams that had an easy game against a weak defense perhaps get a little bit lazy and then struggle ATS the next game. Fair assessment or a little bit of a reach?
So I think of the 2 points, the second one is absolutely is absolutely valid, right? When you talk about the concept of playing against a team off a win over a bottom feeder, where things were very easy for them in their last game and may not be so easy the next time. And yet there's betting market support because they look good. That one absolutely makes sense to me. When you talk about the first of the 2, so you're saying that when if you just played Houston and you just played Oklahoma City, you're more likely to have won and covered. You're more likely to let down your next game because you've won and covered, especially the mediocre teams. That's the one of the 2 that absolutely makes the most sense to me.
Let's look at the totals, Joe, if you could bring those back up. This absolutely surprised the hell out of me. So it's the same information on the right. You see the blue shading, which means the overs. You see the brown text on the bottom, so it means the unders. After you play the Pelicans, the Bucks, the Nets, the Pacers, the Kings, and the Nuggets, you are 55% all the way up to 70% over. Well, guess what? Pelicans are number 6 in scoring, Bucks 1, Nets 2, Kings 9, Nuggets 4. You play a high-paced team. The next game you go over the total. Look at the bottom. After you play the Hornets, the Mavs, the Rockets, the Kings, the Lakers, those teams, 20, 19, 24, 28, and 22 in scoring, the same scoring process holds true the next game. So to me, it was an eye-opener. I'm actually going to go back the last few years and see if this held true. But when you play a high-scoring team, you've gone over the next game. When you've played a lower-scoring team, you've gone under the following game.
That's really an interesting one, Ralph. And again, it passes the smell test, the does it make sense test, because for a team to change their pace, it's not always a conscious decision. It often happens within the flow of the game. So when a team's playing fast-paced teams or coming off a game against a fast-paced team, they may naturally just come into that next game and be a little bit faster paced than they would be. Again, it passes the does it make sense test. And that's the most important thing with all of this database stuff. Great research, Ralph.
Prez, I'm going to go to you, buddy. I'm going to make you think a little bit now with the NHL. And we know this has been a unique NHL season. We've talked about this once before. I want to know what teams do in the second of back-to-back against the same opponents. And it seems like a no-brainer. Take a look, guys. If you lose the first game, you are profitable the second game. 8.2 return on investment. That ROI column in hockey, because we're looking at a record and an average line and a profit, I think return on risk or return on investment is the best number to look. Prez, take a look. If you lost the first game as a favorite, no brainer. You've covered 70% and 18.4% investment return. If you lost as a home favorite, a good number. You lost as an away favorite, a good number, but even a better number. Better teams don't need practice time. Better teams with no rest lining up. If you lost as a favorite and you have zero rest, you are now 17-5, 77% against the spread, a 33.9 return on investment. And then if you lost as a home favorite, you're a favorite of 130 or more, you are 72% to show those numbers. So, Prez, does that surprise you, or is that really you following the philosophy on why you're having such a great NHL season, playing those teams that lost the first of back-to-back games versus the same opponent?
Well, firstly, I'm not surprised. It's literally what I've been doing all year in the NHL. And if you look at my 5% plays specifically, I do write-ups for them, and I say the same thing all the time. I'm looking for this spot. I'm looking for that spot. I do believe those numbers aren't necessarily indicative of previous years. I think we're in a situation where there's less games this year. It makes the wins more important, and every game is a 4-point game, which makes the wins more important. That does get us closer to that playoff style of hockey, which is more of a zigzag style. I'm not surprised one bit, but Tampa Bay today sits in that exact spot. They were a big favorite last game against Columbus, and they lost. So we can take that chart, turn it into an actionable moment for tonight's betting. But that
Joe,
chart,
if Joe would pop up the bottom of that chart,
wow.
I do have the 3 games. There are actually 3 games tonight. The Stars, the Devils, and the Lightning all lost as the favorite, and they're playing the same opponent this game. So all 3 of those teams fall into that category. And just a couple more things to look at. When you're off a high-scoring game and both teams scored 4 or more goals, guess what? 68% to the under. Does that surprise you? No. How about both teams scored 2 goals or less? Guess what? 61% to the over. It seems like a no-brainer. It seems like basic logic that you're going to return to the median. But again, the numbers in the database back that up. I will say this about the Lightning, Prez. Again, I am a novice to NHL handicapping. I am off to a great start this year using some of this chart information. But the Lightning are 2-5, minus 9 units their last 7 games as a favorite, with an average line of minus 200. So that means they've lost 5 games as a 200 favorite in their last 7 games. Yeah. I personally am afraid to play the Lightning tonight in that kind of run, laying over $2.
Ralph, I'm afraid to play the Lightning tonight too. I'm not releasing them. I'm not even releasing them as a free play. We'll both regret that tomorrow. The Lightning off of 1 goal. The Lightning, when they score only 1 goal or 0 goals, 25-5, I think, in the last 3 years. They're in that spot too. So every number lines up for the Lightning tonight, except Columbus has their number, and they have for years and years. Yeah, I'm staying away from that. Ralph, I know you want to talk Rangers and Penguins. Quickly tell us your thoughts.
Common sense, no brainer to me. Penguins 1-9 as an away dog the last 10, with an average line of minus 111. So they've actually been a favorite most of the time. Average line of plus 111. They're 1-9 as an away dog. They're getting outscored by 1.7 goals per game. Rangers 9-2 as a favorite. The average score in those games, they're plus 2 goals per game, and they're averaging 4.5 goals their last 11. They're talking about how much fun they're having over the last 13 games. They're talking about how they're only a couple points off a playoff spot. Adam Fox is the leader of that team emotionally, and they really are a team. 11 of the 18 players that skated scored Tuesday. They're sharing the puck. They're scoring. And to me, again, a 9-2 team on a run against a team that's on a 1-9 run. The lines basically pick them. I'm on the Rangers tonight.
Ralph Michaels. Ralph, what do you got to promote?
A slow day for me. I am going to have a Rangers. That is an actual client play for me. And I'm finishing up my baseball if I have any plays. I very light baseball action the first couple weeks. I am nearly not as astute as Dave. I was watching March Madness like Dave was watching spring training. So I let the pitchers basically get once or twice through the rotation before I start jumping in.
Awesome stuff. Big shout out to you, dude. We'll see you next Thursday. Guys, it's time for the Wager Talk Penalty Box segment. If you don't move to that groovy song, I don't know, man. Joe, I want that song as a bed under this whole segment, so every now and then I can just do a little jiggity jig. Anyway, really quick, I just want to talk about some of the stuff Ralph said. The New Jersey Devils, Dallas, Tampa Bay, all 3 of them lined up in a spot that you would want to play them. We've already spoken about Tampa Bay. I'm not going near that game. Why don't I like the Devils? They just made a big trade yesterday with the Islanders. Palmieri and Zajac gone. From an emotional perspective, I just want to stay off of this team. Buffalo, in the same regard, they're also trading their big guns, but they haven't traded them yet. But the fact that Buffalo lost like 300 games in a row and finally won one, I think their emotional makeup is a little better than New Jersey's. The reason I don't want to play Dallas tonight is they're just shit. So let's go to the 3 games that I do want to play, and I will tell you which ones I'm betting. Carolina over the total of 6. I'm betting this game. They're playing Florida. I released it to my clients 2 days ago. It was a winner 5-2. Normally, I would not come right back with an over when there already was one. But that 5-2 score was phony that game. There was a million chances, 6 or 7 goal posts. That game was going under all the way up to the last couple of minutes. I think it'll go over much earlier this game around. I like Nashville against Detroit. Nashville's on a run. They beat Detroit last game in overtime. I think they get it done tonight in regulation at plus money. And I like Dallas and Chicago under the total of 5.5. They got to 6 last game, but that was not indicative of the game style. I think that game's going to be 3-1 to one of those teams. That's it. Teddy, Rob Vino and Ski Profits tomorrow. Take us home, baby.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk Today. I would definitely like to thank our two guests today, Dave Cokin and Ralph Michaels. I'd like to thank my co-host, Lawrence Presman, and I'd like to thank you, our viewing audience, for taking time out of your busy day to hang out with us. And of course, let's not forget the producer, Joe Ranieri, behind the scenes. We will be back again tomorrow, right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you on the East Coast. Between now and then, enjoy the games and good luck.
With a WagerTalk one-day power pass, you receive every play from every betting consultant for one full day at the ridiculously discounted price of just $149. What's better than spending the day watching and following a great slate of games? Watching, following, and winning those games. Get every WagerTalk expert and every game they release for that day.